Hello and welcome to Trader Chat. Exclusive news here that Flynn has clearly gotten a haircut. Kind of a summer sort of a barnet going on there.
Yeah, exactly. I've gone from in the winter I tend to go low to mid skin fade. I've gone for like a high skin fade this time, so a little bit more Tommy Shelby, but not quite as bad as it was during lockdown anyway. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good and fresh this morning, Johnny.
Tommy Shelby, yeah, I'm sure the barber was well aware of you when you were looking for a Tommy Shelby. How was Goodwood?
Goodwood was actually Goodwood this week. Tends to be Badwood, but no, it was pretty good. I enjoyed being on track. Certainly for the first few days. Towards the end of the week, it got a bit nasty. There was a bit of a disgusting kind of fight going on towards the back end of the week on the Friday, which was horrible to see.
Model said wrote about it in the Racing Post.
He did. It was funny actually. I was in Tats and I was watching it. It wasn't really a fight, to be honest. It was just I don't want to go on and on about this because we want to promote racing, but I think it does need to be spoken about because things do need to change. It was probably 6 or 7, maybe even more guys just teaming up on one person who was just kind of getting his head kicked in. It was horrible to see. No stewards until maybe about 3 or 4 minutes of it going on. Families were getting all knocked around on the rail. It was just horrible to see, and it just kind of ruined the atmosphere for the whole Saturday because you're kind of on edge all day thinking what's going to happen. Ascot have the right idea now that they have hundreds and hundreds of stewards. They're all in these purple vests. They're all got kind of beefed up lads that whenever somebody's kicking off, you know that somebody's kicking off because of the stewards running to the event rather than actually seeing the fight or seeing anything going on. We saw a couple during Royal Ascot, they were literally quashed in about 30 seconds, whereas this one, it took kind of families and people being knocked around on the rail to actually kind of disperse it. And then once it did get dispersed eventually, they were still trying to go for this poor lad who was on the floor kind of cowering. Someone else managed to get kind of caught up in it behind Bo Brown's joint, who actually spoke to Lee Mottershead about it. But what I found really disappointing was that a guy from the Express actually came to speak to me after the events, and he went back up to go and write about it. And Goodwood actually didn't face into the fact that there was actually an incident to start with. It wasn't until Lee Mottershead heard the day after through, I think it was Lofty's tweets actually. I tweeted a few things about it because I think it can't be brushed under the carpet. If it gets brushed under the carpet, then nothing ever changes. The reason that Ascot have all these stewards now is because the press were getting hold of it and we're kind of holding them to account through the actual tabloids and newspapers. But if it does get brushed under the carpet, then nothing will change. They need to have more sniffer dogs. There needs to be more stewarding. It needs to be kind of just dealt with. Money needs to be spent on it to sort it out. And at Goodwood, I don't want to single out Goodwood, but I will in this case, that they weren't prepared for this. And it just led to a poor experience. And if you saw that when you went racing on the Friday, I mean, I didn't particularly want to go on the Saturday. Obviously, I had to because I'm working there, but it didn't make for a nice environment. Nothing actually happened on the Saturday, so that was obviously good news. But you don't want to go to the racing to think, oh, it's a good news if you don't see a fight. I mean, that's just terrible. But they definitely have clamped down on it at Ascot, and you'd think that Ascot would be more difficult. It's a bigger place, but they've done really, really well there. But Goodwood definitely have some learning to do from last week anyway. But in terms of the results, just back to the actual racing, because that's why we were all there. Starting with the Tuesday, the Goodwood Cup. We had a decent result here. Could have been even better. We had 100 grand each way, so Ron Priestley at 4-1. He got the 3rd place, so the each way money kind of went back to the punter there. But we did lay 40 grand each way Serpentine at 10, so we did get some money on the race there, a decent amount, so 80 grand in the hod. Trueshan was good winner of the race, although it's probably one of the poorest Group 1s you've ever seen with Stradivarius coming out. But Trueshan might have done Stradivarius, but it didn't look the best of Group 1s, didn't it? When he couldn't win the handicap, Trueshan in the Northumberland plate, wasn't it? And then he comes out and wins here. So we were off to a decent start on the Tuesday. Moving on to the Wednesday, we actually kicked off with the Arab race on the Wednesday, which is probably my favourite race to bet on, funnily enough, of the whole week, actually. Lofty taught me a couple of years ago when I first went to Goodwood that these Arab races, there's only 3 or 4 that have actually got a chance. The gap is actually huge, but the prices don't tend to reflect it. So we tend to get the rags for a good few £100, and then we have the first few in the market actually winning for us. So I think I had the first 4 in the market winning. They actually filled the first 4 places, so a bit of a trumpet there. And you just try to nick a few X's on the week during the Arab race, but it's actually always quite a fun watch. And then you always kind of walk up and down the line because bookies do price them up differently and try and take some decent odds about the first few in the betting.
Like the old days.
Yeah, exactly. So it is quite good fun, actually, the Arab race and then the Magnolia Cup later in the week. But so we got off to all those kind of just small stuff. It was good fun for the first race on the Wednesday. But the feature was the Sussex Stakes, alcohol-free. What a proper horse she is, eh? Won really comfortably in the end. We laid 10 grand each way Lope Fernandez at 14 and 4 grand each way De Hale at 20 to 1. So there were a couple that we got out of the boxes there, which was really good to see for us. Moving on to the Thursday, some real big bets flying around on the Thursday in the Richmond Stakes. We had 110,000 to 40 asymmetric, which won for the punters. So that knocked us for a good few quid getting kicked off on the Thursday. Then moving on to the Gordon Stakes, we had £100,000 at 7 to 2 Yabir, and then 175,000 on Wordsworth at 3 to 1. Monumental result for the firm there, turning into Goodwood after all, getting both of those chinned. Then moving on to the Nassau, on track, I laid a 30,000 to 4 as Ziyada, so 4 grand at 15 to 2, which was obviously a really big bet to lay on course in cash. And I'm not going to lie, I was bricking it for a good few strides and for a fair bit of the race. Was absolutely swinging off the bit, but Lady Beaufort, thank God for Lady Beaufort, coming down the outside and getting the business done there. She probably deserved that one, to be fair, for her runs this season. Ziyada did look at the class act, but thank God that she got chinned. Otherwise, it would have been good for me on track. I would have been spraying out the readies to this punter in £30,000 worth. So Lady Beaufort did me an absolute trick there on the Thursday. And after those 3 days, as the firm, we were doing fantastically well. Although that did change on the Friday. Firstly, performance of the week probably went to Baid. I mean, what an absolute superstar he looks, eh?
What a horse he is.
Yeah. I'm not sure where he's really going to go next year, but he just looks absolutely phenomenal, doesn't he? I mean, I don't want to start comparisons with Frankel because he's got nothing. He's kind of done. He's not reached those heights yet, but in terms of at stages of their careers, he's probably the most impressive.
It's not a ridiculous comparison at all, actually, at this stage, because he's had 4 starts, been ridiculously impressive every time. But he's done this in a relatively short space of time as well, and he's been taken along slowly. But he's obviously producing figures that suggest he's a proper Group 1 horse already.
Yeah, exactly, and he's doing it on a variety of ground as well, isn't he? It was obviously a little bit easier at Goodwood, and it did get easy to start with, didn't it? We started being on heavy ground. I know we spoke about it last week, and then it did improve throughout the week. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here on in. He just looks an absolute superstar, I think, and I'll be surprised if anything gets near him in the near future. He was so short that we did struggle to lay him. Which was a good thing for us, obviously. So we did struggle to lay him. He was around the 4 to 11, maybe a little bit bigger than that mark. So he was performance of the week for me was Baid. In the Golden Mile, we laid £80,000 on par for Thunder at 5 to 2, which was a welcome loser for us. In the King George, on track, I laid a 10,000 to 2 Art Power. Then I bet up to Batash, so we had an absolute blinding result here with Swayzer getting the job done. Really impressive performance from Swayzer. Was the best result of the week on course for me in Lofty. But then moving on to the 445, this is where the tables turned. We had an 80,000 each way ever given at 9 to 2. Absolutely bolted in, knocked us for 6 and kind of brought us down to earth with a plummet. It was all going our way up until that point, which meant that we were still ahead, but only just after that. £450,000 loser on the end of the Friday. Then moving into the Saturday, we didn't kind of have the kind of huge wagers flying in here, but Wonderful Tonight did get the job done, kind of in a facile fashion in the end. It was a weird race. It kind of tracked the leader. I think that might have blunted the performance ever so slightly. Do you think?
Indeed. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I guess, how did the rest of the day go for you?
So we had the Stewards Cup, which was the feature. We had a 40,000 each way, El Tijab at 11 to 2. But then we had a 10 grand each way, Comanche Falls and Comanche Falls won, and that was at 12 to 1. So kind of neither here nor there on the Saturday. It was a good week overall for the firm. We just won on course and we just won in the office as well. So Goodwood was actually Goodwood last week.
And what about Galway?
Galway, to be honest, we didn't see a huge amount of action at Galway. It was good to see the winner takes it all get beat for us. We did see some late Galway moves, but haven't got a huge amount to bring you from Galway. One thing I did want to touch on is the Racing League. Have you got any thoughts on the Racing League, Johnny, in terms of its picture for racing?
I think it's not a bad idea. I think you need to diversify things a little bit, and you know, there's a lot of skepticism in Ireland about these things that happen in Britain. In general, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it has a bit of merit to it.
Okay, good stuff. So we've actually priced this up on site. So if you did want to have a bet in the Racing League, then we've got it priced up. Newmarket Red at 9-4, Team Talksport 9-2, Team Ireland, Johnny's team 8-1, eToro Racing 8-1, and then we're 10 bar. So we have got it priced up. It is win only on the site. But if you just go to the anti-post page, then we've got the Racing League all there. Moving on from racing, in terms of what we have to look forward to this week, we have got some decent racing from Newmarket. We've got the Sweet Solera Stakes at Haydock. We've got the Rose of Lancaster. We've also got the Shergar Cup on Saturday, and me and Lofty shall be there. I actually really enjoy going to the Shergar Cup. But a lot of people have obviously their opinions on it, but it's always a good fun day to go, explaining to punters, bringing them in, talking to them what each way means, what forecasts are, what tricasts are. I'll have plenty of punters coming up to me, giving me a fiver and asking for a fiver each way. I'll be explaining that all day, but I always find it good fun. You have to think positively and go with an open mind to the show.
Absolutely.
It's always a good fun day to go to.
Briefly, what about the Olympics?
Yeah, so just looking at the Olympics here, so we laid the line over 40.5 goals for the GB. They're on 13 at the moment. It looks like we've got a couple more this morning. We've got all the markets still up on site, so do take a look there. We've got loads going on in terms of Olympics. I don't want to spin through all the kind of events because it is ever changing. But if you do go to the site and have a look, we do have them kind of all priced up, all the main events. So that's the Olympics. In terms of the golf this week, we've got 3 decent golf tournaments as well, and we do have an offer running on the golf. The offer that is if your player is leading at the end of any round, then we'll refund 50% of your stakes, a free bet up to 100 quid if they fail to win. So decent offers get stuck into. That's on the FedEx St Jude, where Koepka heads the market at 12-1, Morikawa's 13-1. Surprised Morikawa's not clear favourite now. I still think the market underestimates him. Schauffele 14-1 after winning Olympic gold last week. Spieth 16, JT 16, and we're 18 bar there. We've also got the Hero Open for the European Tour, and we've got the Barracuda Championship as well. So that offer runs for all 3 events. So that's the golf this week. We've got the Olympics to look forward to. We've got Shergar Cup on Saturday for Ascot. What else we've got going on this week? Trying to think about this week. We've got all the handicap markets and the goal scoring pairs. That's all going to be going live, and we actually have an offer on these markets, which will be going live from this evening, I think. So we'll be speaking about that on calls throughout this week when we're actually doing these videos for the punters. So when you watch, we're likely going to do one tomorrow. We'll speak about all the markets then, the offer, etc. But that's exciting, getting ready for the Premier League. Obviously, we've had all the pre-season friendlies. We're kind of in that limbo stage in terms of racing now, aren't we? Where I think we're kind of just waiting for the big handicaps. We've got the York meeting. They will feed into the Arc Champions Day, and then we'll be back to Cheltenham. But we're in that weird limbo stage of the year now, where it's going to be Premier League soon now as well.
Indeed, and check out the website for all the offers, and obviously check out Flynn for the Shergar Cup on Saturday. And that was Trader Chat. Thank you, Flynn.
Thank you very much.
And we shall talk to you next week.